students are leaving this year who put the ban in place.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, Lee. Just to remind everyone, from this side, both Rob and Emily have collected 250 signatures, which has caused this particular, which has allowed for there to be a referendum, and that voting will be next week from the 16th to the 20th. Lee.
Okay, so there's a few points I want to come back. I want to come back to Emily, and I also want to come back to you at the same time. The standard procedure, if no, it's fine. The standard procedure, if the ban was to be lifted, that doesn't necessarily mean we work with YBD. But if this was to happen again, what would be the kind of similar procedure where students would bring a motion to the AMM or to Students' Council, unless Students' Council develops a procedure or policy to implement beforehand, if that makes sense. So what would happen that way is then it'd be the same process. It'd be submitted by students. Students have voted on it. If the majority of students vote on it, then what happens is we'll be in the same situation where the company again will then be banned, unless Students' Council decide to implement a policy to make stuff happen before that comes in with Emily campaign. Coming back to Emily's campaign, where you say the information, there's no information out there. Well, there definitely is, and you've been part of this, because we've previously had meetings how we wanted to host this. We were wanting to host this in election week or previously, and me and you have both had discussions of that. There's information about the old booklet, what Matt's got right in front of him, online in a PDF version. And there's also been publicity around, not just on Twitter, but around the union at the same time. There's so many different variations for you as just a person to come back and said there's nothing been done about this. I think it's a bit shambolic, to be fair.
Can I respond?
Okay, 1 second. Just to remind everyone that we actually are live now on Frequency and on PSTV. You can go and look at that on their Twitter account and spread the word to other people as well. Yes, you can respond.
Firstly, we're meant to be debating the policy, not the people, so thank you very much for calling me shambolic. Secondly, I would like to respond to the fact that I know and I ask things. Someone's just asked a question, someone who's looking to run for the Law Society chairperson, am I right? And if that person does not know because they have to physically go and look for this information, should we not therefore be publicising it better? And that's what I asked in September, for it to be publicised quite a bit, because events were run at YBD. Like, for example, again, the Law Society ran their coffee morning, were then told that they shouldn't have done that. So it's stuff like that we really need to I'm not saying it's not out there, because yes, I do know about it, but that's because I'm nosy, really. And you really have to search for these things to get it out there more.
Okay, Josie, yeah.
It's a shame that this wasn't publicised a bit better. I must have. It's the how. How do we do that? We struggle to do that generally. So it's not a matter of this. I think it's a matter of general publicity and how we do that properly. But I think we need to be clear where Lee specified about what would happen next time. We need to be clear that there actually isn't anything in place. It would be a matter of we go again in the same cycle. It would be someone puts a motion in, a motion lasts for 3 years, that's how a motion is. Yeah, that's how it is at the moment in the issue. So we want that changing, that's another thing we need to change. That's obviously not going to be right for what happens. So we need to put in place by council the thing that Emily's already started, which is the nightclub motion, slash I like the one that Sophie started as well, called Our Neighbourhood. So we need to do that kind of thing so that there is something that can happen. It's not just YBD, it could be anything. If your vote comes out with the same thing next week, what we're going to do? We're going to do the same thing. We're going to have the same problem in 3 years. It's going to be ridiculous. And the reason that people don't know about it now is because it wasn't talked about afterwards, I guess. But things have been coming when we talking about issues, not about people. Things have been coming back at current officers, and as the officer representing sports and societies, I've felt that. So when it comes at why haven't you told me, I'm like, I don't know, I wish you had been told. Nobody has been for the last 2 years, and it's got to this year, and no one knows, which is horrible. So at this point, yes, we need to sort this out and get rid of it, but we need to look at, number one, how we put something in place for next time, which I believe is the motion, the nightclub motion. And number two, we need to look at publicise other things that happen like this in the future, so what the rules are.
Given what Josie's just said, and I mean, I'm sat next to Gracie here, who said out about the YBD ban in December, which I remember is something that Rob echoed when I interviewed him on Frequency. Now, given that people have only recently found out about YBD, and for example, even today wasn't very well publicised, either on social media, shouldn't it be a case that we actually keep the ban in place because that gives people time to think and consider it more, given that it will be wiped out in November anyway, which isn't a long period of time when you think about it? What do you think?
One of the reasons why we kind of put this referendum in place now is because we want to, when it comes to the next freshers, give societies the chance to actually work with YBD from the get-go and not 3 months into their time as a society. So that's why we chose to do it now. Societies have the choice when they start to actually work with YBD and be given the option to have the sponsorships if they require it. Because some societies will start in September and not actually get to November because of funding or other issues. So actually, if there's someone's there to provide the sponsorships at the beginning, they might have a better chance of growing and continuing into a large society like ours, for example. So, yeah.
Now, another question is, do you actually think that YBD have been punished enough, given that I know, for example, your society were working with YBD regardless for that time period, so they've not actually lost anything, because actually they've been working with lots of clubs, perhaps under the table, as it were?
Yeah, we've worked with YBD for 3 years. I was the social secretary 3 years ago, the Japanese Society, which literally the month after the ban was put in, we started working with YBD about the ban, hence why we worked with them. And I've completely gone on a tangent there. Sorry, can you repeat the question, Isaac? Sorry.
So, do you think that YBD have been punished enough, given that they've been working with societies anyway throughout the time period they were supposed to have not been working with them?
Well, the motion itself doesn't really give much of a punishment in a way. And I think it was very loosely written, the motion. In fact, states that when the apology is made and when they've stopped producing sexist material. Now, that in itself is very subjective. What you think is sexist could be different to what someone else thinks is sexist. So there is that case of, I personally think that it was very sexist and I was offended. But they have now stopped producing material from that point. So that ban says that we should have lifted it quite some time ago, particularly as the 3-year cycle of motions was brought in after the YBD motion was in place. On regards to punished enough, there wasn't really much of a punishment written in there. And in fact, the ban is putting a punishments on sports and societies to stop them having funding. Now, that's not really a punishment for YBD because they're still getting the business, yet they're not having to fork out for funding like Adelphi and Roper do. So that doesn't make any sense. Surely the point of the ban is to discourage... Oh, go on, I'll pass it back again. But surely the point of the ban is to kind of discourage people working with them, because the reason they do that is so they get more people through the doors. If you're a society and you're working with YBD, you're obviously going to spread that that's what you're doing. Oh, it's great, they've given us this room for this. Come along, they've given us some free vouchers. That creates business for them. Now, if that's been happening anyway, then they've not lost anything in revenue. As you say, there's been no punishment on them. So perhaps we should keep it in place for another few months, and people should not work with them so they actually feel the effects of the ban. No, because at the time, it was so long ago that I know I'm old, but I wasn't a student there. So I'm not quite sure how it affected their business. And like I've just said, it is now not affecting their business, and it's directly affected my club, it's directly affected Dance, JSOC, and so therefore the punishment is on us now. That's why we want the ban lifted now.
Okay.
The microphone.
Yeah, can't keep the microphone away from the head of Frequency Radio News team. Just, can you pass on to Amy and then we'll break down to you.
On punishment, thanks. Where does it say punishment? Where's the word punishment come from? Matt Webber. Okay, well, Matt Webber's not a student, so I don't think that's right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't remember that it was in the motion. I'm not sure that that's the reason why. I'd just like to clarify that it was started. It may have been in some people's minds, in some students' minds, that they'd like to punish because it was obviously a reactionary thing sometimes. But actually the motion was passed by council because it was to support students. It was a matter of these students may be hurt by this material or by what's going to happen in future. So it was actually a matter of helping the students. It's turned out at this point that it hasn't helped students. Obviously, it's not been great. I wasn't there at the time on council. I was actually treasurer of Equestrian many moons ago, and actually sponsored by YBD at the time. So it wasn't a matter of, so I was there as well is what I'm saying, but it wasn't a matter of punishment, it was a matter of supporting the students so that they couldn't be affected by the materials or whatever was happening at the time. And actually there were a lot of incidents at the time in the nightclubs as well. There was a lot of people suffering different types of incidents. So there were lots of reasons why, but I don't think it was punishment, so I'd just like to clarify that seems to be a word that's come from nowhere, I'm not sure.
A question from Amy and then over the other side.
Mine's just more about clarification. So obviously YBD's apologised, but what was actually said? Like why was this produced in the first place, and what have they said in terms of their actual apology?
Well, the apology is online. It's on the YBD referendum. It's on www.uclanpstv.co.uk/referendum. So it's on there. It's been on there. And we've tried to publicise it as much as we can. It is a long, long apology where they take full responsibility for what they said. I can't remember it word for word, but what I would like to say is that it's a completely different apology to the one they made in July, where they actually told us that we're sorry for you being offended. They've actually said, we understand that that it was wrong to do so. So the apology can be found there along with the original document and the original motion as well.
Just to clarify what was actually said in the document, what people found offensive and misogynistic was a part that said, girls, if you're out about at 10 a.m. wearing heels and an outfit that leaves little to the imagination, you might as well be wearing a sandwich board with the words walk of shame scribbled all over it, or prostitute. And then it also says, if you're bringing a girl home, she's probably going to be as clean as your room. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. But yeah, that's what people deem to be offensive. And since then, there's been one official apology, if that I'm aware of, or two. One official apology, though. We'll take a question from there.
That being the case, obviously that's disgusting, and I suppose at the time the ban probably was right to go in place for that. But I haven't heard what I've heard today. I don't agree, and I think we probably should lift it. But at the same time, might defeat the point, and I know obviously funding's a big issue everywhere, but could the university actually do more themselves to help and support the society so that we wouldn't need companies like YBD funding them?
Well, we've heard that the university themselves actually want YBD to sponsor their colour run on the 24th of April, so the university don't seem to have much of an issue with YBD. As the union itself, they would... that's up to us to put that in place. That's up to the Student Council, the SAC, to put the precautions in place so students don't get affected again by materials. And to be honest with you, lifting this ban, if they do anything again, I personally will be coming down on them since I've supported them so much, and it will be quite harsh what is put in, and a better... Okay. Yeah.
Yes, Anna.
Okay. Sorry. Sorry, I've been demoted from chair to just a spectator. There we go. Question from there.
All right, hi guys. Just to clarify your question, when you said about punishment, what would punishment enough be for you? Losing business as a company and as a venue where students go to drink, would that be punishment enough for you? Hey? Okay, it's not about punishment, but did you use the word punishment before?
I think my point was just quite general.
One sec, we'll come back to you. What is your question?
My question is that, well, I'm just trying to clarify something. In my second year, I'm part as YBD's member of staff as well. I worked in ships, and we used to get people from the football team, the hockey team, the rugby team coming in on a night out, having drinks, and after a while that completely stopped. And that in itself is a loss of business. So when people say, when you said that maybe punishment is not enough, I think that there has been an impact on it, and not just the fact that, oh, YB doesn't need these people to come in or anything, but something has affected them. Maybe in small amounts, you know, maybe because they've got two clubs, well, a club and a place, and maybe it's not affected them that much, but it still has to a certain extent.
Okay, we've got a question up to the top from Sana. No, can you, no, pass it back. No, pass the microphone back, please. Thank you. No, it's because I'm chair and you're not. Thank you. Can you... Right. We'll come back to this, don't worry. I'm just taking it in turns. She's had her hand up for a while.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify the points that have been made. One of the things that I asked at the beginning was, what does YBD give? So the idea of rehearsal space and funding, just from a student union point of view, rehearsal space, there's 52 degrees that you could always book for rehearsal space. So it's not like YBD is the be-all and end-all of those kind of things. Also, the other thing I'd say is, funding-wise, the Society's development pot and grants, they're all up for grabs, and we hardly see people from clubs coming forward and asking for things like that. So I think what you need to do is...
Just have quiet for a second and just listen to her question.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't go for YBD things. All I'm saying is that the answer of, does the student union do more, or does the university do more to help societies fund and for them to not have YBD? Yes, they do. Come and find out about them.
In respect to that, the Society's Development Committee fund would not cover what YBD offered the Pole Society. They offered us between $2,500 and $3,000 at the start of the year. You couldn't get that from the Society's Development Fund. Yes, the Students' Union did give us a loan, but that still means we have to rather than YBD giving us the money and not having to pay it back.
Okay, we got a question from Julie.
Hiya, I just wanted to know, as like chair of Writers' Society, could there not have been more done with regards to letting chairs of societies know the whole situation with YBD? Because I only actually found out at the beginning of the year we weren't allowed to work with them through YBD approaching me themselves and saying, look, we can't work with you, but that doesn't mean we can't offer you a good night. Then I was like, well, what's going on here? Through my role in council, that I actually found out what was going through YBD. But I think that chairs of societies who, if they don't think there's anything to find out, they won't go and actively search for it. So why couldn't the chairs and the social sex and the committees of the societies be told about this as it was going on? So then there would be no confusion and there would have been a lot more publicity.
I completely second that. So.
It was posted on the Society Leaders page by both Josie and Lee back in September and then in early October, but we don't believe that was enough.
Okay, we'll go back to a point from Lee as soon as Chelsea can run all the way down.
It's me again. I'm just going to come back on your point. There's a few points which I just want to clarify. Again, it's not about punishment. That was never ever mentioned in the debate. Second thing is, can you prove that the SU has caused Max or YBD loss of business? Because you can't just state that in a public forum, because we're not telling students they can't go and have a drink at YBD. We're just saying to students they can't get involved through SU opportunities like sports or societies. It's just for clarification of that, because when I met with some of the managers of YBD to talk about this and to look at the apology and look at the steps we could take, we said not once have we said to students, you can't go and drink with them, you can't go and not do this with them. It's all about the referendum and students having their opinion, and it's that concept, if that makes sense.
So you're saying that...
Okay, hold on. We'll have another point down here.
I think if you looked at their numbers in first year, well, my first year, so 2012 to 2013, especially on a Wednesday, you would see how much they've lost business. 2 floors in Max used to be open on a Wednesday night, and now we literally struggle to get 50 people through the door on a Wednesday, and that's because they are sponsored by other people and they're obliged to go there.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, I'm not going to make it an argument in between us lot or whatnot. It's just I've been at UCLan since 2009, and the nightlife in Preston was absolutely amazing back in 2009. And every single year, the nightlife drifts, and it's not just because of students being sponsored by us. It's because of the nightlife in Preston itself. You just said Morecambe went redundant, if you would, with business. So there's lots of different variations with that. It's not just an impact of what the SU have had.
Okay, and a point down the front here.
Just to come back on the girls' point up at the top about could we not get help off the SU, because we do tap dancing, it's like a certain floor that has to be used, and the SU were not willing to like help us get a floor. And also when we asked could we use 52 degrees, they wanted us to pay for it, and we weren't allowed any under 18s in the venue, so they didn't help us to get a venue for our fundraiser. Whereas Max came and supported our fundraiser and gave us a floor, which the SU weren't willing to help with, so for free. We didn't have to pay for it, but 52 degrees he wants us to pay for.
Okay. Okay, no, don't shout out. What are you... Made a point from Lucy, and then we'll go to Sana. Lucy, who's chair here, Lee? Come on. And she listened to you.
I have the power. Okay, that's brilliant. The only thing I would say to that is, if you feel like the student union's not doing something to support you, come and change it. Come and tell us about it. See, if we knew about that in student council, we do something, we change it, we try and get some more thing involved so that you could facilitate that kind of thing. I think it's just a matter of those issues need to be raised to more than just one or two people. Makes sense.
Okay. Gareth has a point. I don't know why. What? But Steph, I don't. Okay.
First time I've used a microphone in years. Just a point of clarification, this debate isn't about the amount of resource that the student union gives and doesn't give. In context though, since this motion was passed, the amount of money that has been allocated to societies and clubs has gone up, and we also have created the Opportunity Centre and created the first ever dedicated role to support societies. So all of that is context. This is not the debate. Your debate is about, rightly or wrongly, whether you should continue with the ban, and that's a separate issue.
Okay. Coming back down to Lucy. Lucy here.
Hello, this is on behalf of Stephanie Lomas from home. She's watching from home. She said, how can you justify lifting the ban even in November when it not only offends women in general, but students that may be rape victims?
Okay. Okay, yeah. Do you want to come back on that?
Firstly, I don't think having a ban. I don't think having a ban on a certain venue, or having on one venue, is going to help support someone who may be a victim of rape. I think the SU we need to be doing more, which they do with the Advice and Rep Centre. I also think that, and what I've seen from as Women's Rep, is that there have been a number of incidences at all clubs in the area that I think we need to tackle as well. So it's not just the fact that this has happened at YBD, it's the fact that it's happening everywhere. And if we were to put motions in and complaints every time something happened, we would actually have nowhere to drink. So I think that's the issue that we need to look at after we've lifted the ban.
Okay. Remember, if you've got any questions from people who aren't here, tweet me at uclanSU_media with hashtag uclanyes or hashtag uclanno. Have we got any more questions? Or people that need to go? There we go.
Yeah, guys, you know when you read the article and it was like, oh my God, would you be like that if you know that the article was actually originally written by a student, criminology student, a girl, 21-year-old girl? So she did this. But I'm not blaming her or anything. I'm not blaming her. Don't worry. The thing is, it was written by a student, a girl, so she didn't think it's wrong. But then everyone, I think it's wrong. Personally, yeah, I think it's wrong. But then look at the media these days. Wouldn't you say the same thing? Even worse things are being promoted on media. So it's a bit extreme to like saying something about rape, because I was refused to get on student uclan's bus after I had been in the library till 3 o'clock in the morning. I've been refused. And 2 guys went before 2 girls, and student the driver said, we're not sexist here in uclan. We can't take on girls, even though we were waiting longer. So is there no there then? Like, how come YBD is being blamed for these things? And like when uclan's driver refuses to take on 2 girls, there's more possibility of rape than like putting an article like that, isn't it? Let's face it, it's just too extreme, this.
Okay. A question from down here. Point from down here.
Hello again. I'm not attacking, however, there has been a bouncer that has set someone on fire and a pig's head taken into another club. You talk about rape victims, what about a vegetarian? It's pretty much the same thing. Come on. Yeah, that's fine. That's not towards me.
Hold on. Right.
Right. I know it's not on the same level, but it's the same kind of thing. If you have someone who's so against animals or anything and someone brings in a pig's head to a club on your night out, you're obviously going to be against it. That is not my question.
We may be getting slightly off topic.
No, that's
What's
not
your
my question. My question is that why does it feel personal towards the people at YBD rather than the actual club?
Okay, fair enough. Do you guys want to come back on that, or? Oh, okay, right, fair enough. Right, put your hand up. Right, do we have another question? From down here. Yeah. We're recording it, it's going out live.
Okay, so everyone seems to be getting really off topic now, and it's starting to go to like different clubs and who's offending, who's not. It's happened. Everyone knows that it's happened. That is the whole point of ban was put in place. They've now said that they're wrong, so the issue isn't whether what they did was wrong. Everyone knows it was. There is no issue with that. It's whether we are suffering more as societies now than what the club are themselves. This referendum shouldn't be a personal attack on workers at YBD or the SU or things like that. The whole point of this thing is it going to be beneficial for our students to lift this ban? So really, is there any way we can move back to that question? Because this discussion is kind of going nowhere and in circles. We should really be focusing on what students want and whether it's best for us.
Okay.
Thank you, George.
Got a point from Lucy.
In regards to the safety bus, if you want to speak to me after, please feel free, and I can explain a little thing about that. I just want to come back to something that was put, so it's your point, but coming right back to the beginning when we talked about kind of money and support. The fact that, and for the record, I am for lifting the ban, just playing devil's advocate. It just seems that wrong that YBD was offering so much money to societies and clubs to go against the SU for them to use them, yet you said before that they wouldn't keep that same support now if we were to go with them, and I understand that they'd have to support more clubs and societies, but they're not willing to give that much money across. That's what you said to Tom's question before, Emily. So it just seems a little bit wrong that they would try and get you to go against the SU in that way.
Okay.
So after we had to reject their offer, obviously they had their offer and we had what we were going to do in place. what we were going to do in place was to go every week to YBD on our socials. We haven't therefore done that this year, so they can't offer us the same amount of money for what we said we were going to do because we haven't been there every week. We've been there once a month, so now they would probably offer us the amount of money for what is adequate for once a month rather than once a week like they were going to.
Okay. Any more questions? Nope. Yep. Right, okay. Well, I'll point from you first.
Okay. I'd just like to point out that I understand a lot of people here are playing devil's advocate, but it does strike me as very odd that no one has come here to represent the no side and that there isn't much talk for the no side. And it just shows what students themselves actually want from this. The fact that we had over 250 people signing to get this referendum sorted shows that this is probably what students want. And as a member of the representative committee for the SU, I think we need to be listening to what students are wanting, and I think that is to lift the ban.
Okay, we had a question from up there.
So coming here has actually informed me even more about why I should stick with Team Yes, because I think the fact that they give you rehearsal space and not just funding but actual physical space, that's a very big thing, and I think that should be commended. And I think they have demonstrated a desire to change, and I think if we don't give people the room to change, what's the impetus to change anyways? I think they've owned up to their mistake, and I think there's something said about the person who wrote it. It's not hired anymore. They're gone now. So it seems like, I'm not saying they're a reformed character, but I think they've demonstrated a real desire to show up for UCLan and UCLan students. And I know, when I was BME rep, when we were trying to organise events, and I'm not saying this or the current issue, but last time it was such a struggle to get funding, to get anything going. And it just seems like YBD do support student innovation, I think. Or if you want an event, they do provide you with support. And I think the very fact that UCLan, the university itself, is wanting YBD to endorse them, I would just say maybe we should leave YBD's past in the past and try and look at it in a new eyes. And I think give them the chance to show us that they can be better, and they have, I guess. But yeah, so that's my point. So.
Okay, we'll have a couple more points and then probably bring it to a close soon. We got a question from down here. Away from the microphone, can you, Isaac?
My question is kind of coming back on Emily's last point about the fact that she thinks that there's probably no one here that is supporting the Say No to YBD campaign. I don't really want to take either side here, obviously because of my media role, but a question I would ask to try and see what people think in the room as well as yourselves.
Anyway,
is exactly. The point I want to raise is do you think that people who would vote no are actually here today? Would they know about it? Or do you think that the people here today are more likely to be associated with YBD or want to be, and that's why they're here?
I think a lot of people spoke up on your argument with some points to show that, yes, they know that something like this is happening. And I think, I know for a fact, Lee has given opportunity on that article for people to represent the no side. And he's also posted on the uclanpstv page, which it is presumed that some of them would not be supporting this. So as much as it can be possible to advertise the no side, that's been done probably so that the debate is going on and that the ban has happened.
Okay, we're just going to have a question from Amy, and then you can make a point on that later. After Amy's question.
I just want to say, first of all, I am Team Yes. I fully believe in forgive and forget, and they're clearly showing signs of obviously wanting to get back on student sides. But for me, it feels like quite a lot tonight is to do with funding, and it's about societies wanting funding as opposed to actually that seems to be the main reason that you want to lift the ban, as opposed to enhancing student experience, maybe going out on any form of night out. It just seems to be societies are wanting to re-collaborate with YBD for money, and that's just kind of my point.
Okay.
Hello? I think it's societies wanting the freedom and the chance to work with who they want to work with. And if that includes monetary funding, then that's the case. But it's mainly, we can go to whoever we want to work with. We can bid, place off each other for sponsorships. We actually can do that ourselves. That's why we're doing it.
Okay, Lee?
Okay, sorry, I thought you were going to come back on that point then. My point is basically to back Em up there, where she said, Em's posted out asking for people for a no. I've done it just basically so there isn't a bias set on the yes side, and I've given ample opportunity for students online, in person, all over Facebook, Twitter, and the Pluto article at the same time for a no vote to come forward. Give them a bit of a brief on what they can say. Not one person came forward. There was one comment on my work Facebook which said no to the ban, and just a bit of obscenities. But other than that, just no one's come forward. So just for clarification, there was a no one for a no vote.
Okay. Have we got any other questions or points from the audience? Yep, sure.
Just on Amy's point, so Rob's coming from the monetary side and I'm coming from the sexual harassment side. Monetary.
Might be a bit further, yeah.
I am coming from the sexual harassment side in the fact that I do fully believe that if we don't lift this ban, the steps that we are putting in place is not going to allow us to work with that, and we can't therefore, if we want to, and say with us on this night venue motion, and in that sort, no offence to anyone who was part of the writing of the ban, but it wasn't very clear. It wasn't very clear what they wanted. It wasn't very clear why. For example, tonight Josie has stated that there were other things that led to the ban lifted, but they're not in it. So the fact that funding wasn't given out when it was promised, that's not in the ban. The fact that they used the SU logo without consent, that's not in the ban. So yes, there are these other points that YBD did, but they're not in the ban. So what's that about, kind of thing? If they do go, I'll go back to that point that Pluto have so kindly quoted me on already. The fact that if...
Not being sarcastic, by the way. I hope.
If the ban is lifted and YBD do step out of line again, we can educate them and then come down on them harder and make it more structured about what we want from them and why they've done what they did and why it's wrong, and then extend that to Evoke, Cameo, any other places, because I'm not quite sure where the other places are. Everywhere, Rift & Co. They changed the name anyway, so it'll be something different next.
Okay.
Just to answer to your point about it coming back to funding, it's become a debate about funding because that's what's hindering the teams the most. It's not about going on a night out. You can make the decision as an individual to go to Max or to go to YBD, but as a group, you're hindered from being sponsored by them, and that's why it's coming down to funding. And my last point is, as Social Sec, if we were not sponsored by them at all this year, being a floor or whatever, we would have not been able to compete and represent UCLan.
Okay, got a point from up there. Your PR. Shh, quiet.
Thank you. Can I make a comment about fundings? You say that the only reason people are going for funding is to lift the ban. Well, unfortunately, money is kind of what makes the world go round. If you want societies to make events and make it happen, they need funding. And if they can't get a sufficient amount from the student union to provide the right area for societies, then what's stopping them from going somewhere else?
The ban. We've got a point from, Chelsea might have a while getting round. But yes. Yeah. Next time we'll have a robotic flying mic. Yeah.
Hello, we're back. As the current activities and participation officer, and I said it right for once, there is actually a £6,000 grant pot for societies, which never before has been used. There's always some left because societies don't actually come to use it. And this year I've actually made it a lot easier as well for people to get that money. The grants used to have to like write a book and get it published to be able to get some money. Now you don't because I ripped that up. It's literally so easy. You still have to write a book, but you don't need the publishing. So when you're talking about money, it's so easy to get to that £6,000 grant pot. It goes to now a committee of 6 representatives and myself, which look at it, which is the Societies Development Committee that Emily mentioned earlier. And that, like I said, that money's never been used before. So that money is there. Obviously, we don't want to stop you going out and getting your own money. That's really good. And Sana also mentioned about the benefits of YBD giving you in-kind funding or giving you in-kind help, like dance, getting the places to practice. But when you talk about money not being given to societies, literally there's a pot there waiting for you. Please come and get it because we want to give it out. Thanks.
Got a question from down here.
Can I just respond?
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. In response on that, I think, and particularly development committee, it's actually quite hard to get funding, and I think we've been quite harsh this year. For example, my club, again, we're struggling financially. We've asked for money. We were only given half for certain reasons, yet there's been other clubs and there's been other societies, that have been given their full amount. Like we asked for £300 and the other society asked for about £600. They were given their full amount. We were only given half of what we asked for. I understand the reasons why, but when that is very subjective to the people that are there, it's no wonder we're having to go other places for that money.
Just to respond to that also, because again, everyone seems to get off topic. It's not about getting money from YBD, it's about having the option. Obviously the SU are there, like you've just said yourselves, there is money there. It's not about where we're getting the money from, it's about having the option to choose where we get the money from and who sponsors us. That's all it's about. Stop attacking the SU, because they are trying to help. But at the same time, we're trying to get like the option. So stop bringing it into this whole YBD versus the SU thing, because it's kind of pointless.
Hold on, wait.
I'm pro-ban, by the way, and I actually help them. And I get people didn't understand it, which is why, like, no one knew. We personally didn't know until the forum, and that's when it all kicked off. Like, when we were told we couldn't go there, obviously by yourselves. So then that's when it all kicked off and stuff like that. Obviously, there wasn't any transparency about it, anything like that. So I get that people didn't understand. So it hasn't really, in many ways, you yourselves have said, like, you've gone there and got it anyway. But then there are other people who we've kind of stuck by the SU's rule and we're missing out for that. Like, they offered us a grant just to do cultural events and we've totally missed out on that because of it. We just want the option to go to them if that's what we want for funding.
Yeah, over the other side.
I know you're saying that we're going off topic, but the people, especially up there, said that they had no idea what it was about. So they're asking questions as to why we want to work with YBD. So we're being honest as to what they're giving us and why. I'm not trying to change the debate. I'm trying to tell them our points so they can be for it or against it. They can make their decision based on what all of us as students and as society reps are saying. If you're just saying it's just about this article and it's just about lifting the ban, that's fair enough, but only fair enough to those people who know what the ban is about.
Okay. Have they, I think there was a question from up the top somewhere. No? Okay. Okay, if that's all the questions we've got from the audience, we'll have a closing statement from one side.
First of all, just say thank you all for coming today. I think we should all be really kind of proud of ourselves for actually coming here, expressing our student voice and using our student voice on what is potentially a controversial matter. Just to clarify, the reasons why we are voting yes is to give students the opportunity to work with whom they wish. Sorry? To give students and societies the opportunity to work with whom they wish to allow monetary support from YBD if they choose, and to show that students do have a voice and want to be heard. Thank you. Please lift the ban.
Okay. Yeah, just to clarify, it's monetary and not military support.
Yes. Not military. Not quite yet.
Just to round things up, all information on your website, documents from previous motions, etc. And if you'd like a look at this particular booklet, I'll be down here now for a minute. Voting will be next week, along with the rest of the SU elections, and you can do that on the SU website as well, from the 16th on Monday to Friday, at 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. on Friday the 20th. Just to remind people that tomorrow is question time in the atrium at 4 p.m, and of which we'll be questioning all of the candidates that are running in the elections for the SAC candidates. Thank you to PSTV, who've been filming and streaming the event this afternoon. Thanks to, well, it's now also on frequency as well, but they're taking it from the stream of PSTV. And thanks to Pluto for covering the event as well. And thank you very much for coming along. Remember to tweet #UclanYes and UclanNo.